Greetings, everybody, and welcome to another episode of History's Uncharted. I'm Cecilia. Today we are joined by Tanya.
Hi.
And of course, our fearless leader, Shanna.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We're super excited to hear from you again, and hopefully you're excited to hear from us again. That we are going to talk about something completely different than the last couple episodes. And Cecilia, did you want to introduce the episode?
Yeah, today we are talking about the fall of Constantinople under the hands of Mehmed II.
You got it. You got it. Yeah, we're excited. And Tanya, we're super excited to have you, our dear friend, here joining us today.
I'm glad to be here and support you guys.
We're excited to have you here. Okay, so first, instead of talking about Constantinople, we are going to talk about Mehmed, the man, the legend. Sultan Murad, that is his dad, right? Sultan Murad's third son, Mehmed II, was born in 1432. So he was actually born to, his mom was a non-Turkish Muslim slave concubine. That is a big mouthful. Huma Hatun. And again, as always, I apologize my pronunciations if they are wrong.
So is that pretty common that a child of a concubine would be accepted into the fold?
Yes. Okay, so Ottoman Empire is a little bit different than what most Western or Americans might be familiar with. So they, especially during this period, they go through lots of different periods, and this is the period that definitely has the fratricide, which is where you had as many heirs as you could, and then once one was decided, then you let the heirs fight it to the death, and then the winning heir became the sultan. But then you're like killing babies that are your brothers. So it's a fun time. It was eventually outlawed, but
so birth order didn't matter at all.
Okay, so kind of more of a meritocracy and a birth order kind of put together. So if you're the son of a concubine, but you were really good at your job, you would be better equipped to get the throne than your high-born brother who did nothing, because you could kill him because he's a nothing and you're awesome.
Yeah. And then did they have like a main wife and then multiple concubines? Or
oh, totally. Yeah.
Wives?
Multiple wives, and then just the gazillion concubines and slaves, and they're men. They could do whatever they wanted.
Variety is the spice of life, apparently. So was Mehmed immediately brought into the fold of the castle or the palace, I guess?
It's not like that either. It's really weird, strict rules. So you stay with your mother until you're 5, because you're like a baby and not a real person, and not, so you stay with the mom, and she nurses you and she raises you until you're a human. So Mehmed spent his first years in the harem at the capital city with his mom, Erdine. That's the name of the city, not his mom.
Erdine.
Yeah. His mom was Huma Hatun. He lived in the capital city, Erdine, until about the age of 5. And then apparently that's when he's man enough to take over as provincial governor at this small town on the outskirts called Emesa. So his oldest brother actually was the provincial governor, but he died. And so they needed a provincial governor, so Mehmed got the job.
Not the second oldest?
I don't have anything about the second brother at all, so that's fun.
Well, there's a lot about, I would say that in general, there are so many children that Murad probably had.
Mehmed's the third.
Right?
Yeah, Mehmed's the 3rd son. It just says son. I don't really hear a lot about daughters. I guess if any of you listeners want to go down the rabbit hole of all of the different children of Murad, feel free. This is the people we're talking about. As a reminder, we are doing broad strokes of history, not the deep, in-depth scholarly conversations. We do what we can do here.
We're internalizing history.
And we're humanizing it too. We're telling the
humanizing
story of what happened.
Through our lovely lens of life.
Yeah, all them pesky facts. Get in the way. So anyway, his brother died. So now he's the provincial governor of this small little town at the age of 5.
7.
Yay. 7. 14 quarter. You're right. 1439, he becomes, this is a different provincial government appointment. So now he is also Manzia.
Oh.
All right. So he's got Amasia and Manzia.
Yeah.
He is in charge of running for dad.
I mean, you got to think about, so he's in charge, but he has all of these advisors that actually make file the papers and do the things as he is learning from these advisors how to be an administrator and how to be a ruler in these small learning opportunities.
Okay.
That's
So
what
it's
he's
kind of
doing.
like training camp.
It is. It's how to be an emperor training camp.
Cool.
Excellent analogy. And apparently, big shocker, he is an obnoxious brat. And he keeps going through all these different tutors and people training him, and no one wants to work from him until his dad says, okay, cool. So I'm giving all of your tutors permission to whoop you if you get out of line.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, ironically, after that, he started becoming very good at his studies. He was really good at languages, philosophy, geography, literature, history, and he really liked to focus on Latin and Greek. And that's going to come into play more later down the story, too. Latin and Greek history. So, Mehmed had a really complicated relationship with his dad and the throne. So, like we said, he lived with his mom, and then he saw his dad just like a couple times a year, and it was more like a progress report and exam than father-son bonding. So, in September 1444, when Mehmed was just 12, his dad did the unheard of, and he abdicated his throne, and he gave it to his young son. Like, that literally is never done. You get the throne when your dad dies. Or you kill him, and you take the throne.
That seems kind of weird.
It is really weird. He got tired of ruling.
He just got tired of being the dude.
He wanted to retire.
How old was he? Do you know?
The dad? Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Fans, why don't you go ahead and Google that, too, and you can post it in the comments.
It's like 35, and I'm like, I'm done with this.
Well, I am finished. This 12-year-old obviously has got this. He just needs to be the face.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing.
His
yeah,
advisors are in place. He just needs to be the face. Exactly. Obviously, he can handle this. So does he handle this? I mean, he's 12.
He's 12,
He's
guys.
12.
Right? He's been in little boot camp, emperor boot camp for a while. Sultan
He's
boot
apparently like kind of a D.
Yeah. Well, he was whooped by his tutors into not being as much. So hopefully he's nicer now.
It could have been beaten out of him potentially.
But unfortunately for him, right after he took the throne, those pesky Christians come out of Eastern Europe and start a crusade into Ottoman territory. So most Christians hear about it from the perspective of the Crusaders, but this is from the perspective of the Ottoman Empire, which feel like they're being invaded, which is kind of funny. So he really didn't have enough military training because he's 12. So his dad had to come back out of retirement. And after just a few months, he kicked the Christian butts back to Hungary and Burgundy and Venice and Eastern Europe. And then he went back into retirement and put Mehmed back in charge again.
Loving it.
I know, right?
He's there for one job only. He's like, just for this one thing, and then I'm back. I'm going to go back and chill.
Which totally shows that his son couldn't do it.
Well, I mean, he's 12.
Right, I know.
So I understand Dad's position on this. He doesn't want to lose it all and have his child be the legacy of, like, it all slipped through her hands.
Right.
In the matter of months.
Those Christians.
I mean, and who wouldn't see a 12-year-old boy in charge as an opportunity?
Probably
as well.
why they started that crusade to begin with. All of a sudden, the throne looks weak because there's a 12-year-old on it. Let's take this opportunity to invade.
Right.
All right, so he gets the throne back for like 2 years, and then in April 1446, the Janissaries come up to him. So,
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
What are the Janissaries?
Okay. So the Janissaries are a group of elite soldiers that are part of the Sultan's personal guard. So they are around the Sultan all the time. They're the creme de la creme. But they are not Turkish. They are stolen children from the Christian provinces that are in the Ottoman Empire. So they were levied, which is like taxes that the people that lived in these Christian provinces had to pay in the form of their children to the Ottomans. And then these young boys were taken, they were castrated, they were converted to Islam, and then trained to be the most elite soldiers in the world.
That's one way to pay your taxes.
I agree. Well, I mean, if you think about it, you are poor and you have 15 mouths to feed and you have to pay these expensive taxes. So you might as well send some of your kids out there and at least they have jobs and they're fed every day and they get trained. And
they're hanging out in a castle. They're personal guards. I mean, they like horrific things happen to them and they're taught how to fight and defend.
Really fancy outfits and uniforms.
All right, but
they're high elite ranking soldiers. They have lots of soldiers under them.
Right. And these are, so when we say the Sultan's personal guard, this is Mehmed's personal guards.
Correct.
That were once his father's, Murad's.
Correct.
Personal
as
guards.
well. Yes. Cool. Okay, so those are the Janissaries. So they came up to him in 1446 and say, you know what? We don't think that you're paying enough and we want to raise. And when he says no, because his advisors are like, we can't afford that, they start riots in the streets. And it even gets so bad that the marketplace is burned down. So Mehmed caved. He gave in to all of their demands, gave them a raise. And this set a really bad precedent. And he looked like a really weak ruler. Let's keep in mind, guys, he's 14.
Yeah, he's 14 at this
14.
point.
Okay.
And he's already been, his hands were slapped by daddy. Yeah, so he's not really getting a good rap out there at all.
In fact, that's what his advisors think too. So they spend the next 2 years sending these really crappy letters to his dad saying that he is he's too young, he's incompetent, he's not fit to rule. What are you going to do about this? So his dad comes back out of retirement. Again. He sends Mehmed back to Manzia, which he was a governor in a long time ago when he's a little boy. So now he's 16. And in, the 1400s, Ottoman Empire, 16's a man.
Yeah.
So this is hugely embarrassing. It's a huge hit to the ego. But Mehmed is up in Manzia, and he has this Greek concubine that has his first kid, which he names Bayezid II. And this is after his grandpa, Bayezid the First.
How nice.
How cute.
So at the age of 16, he's a daddy. We love teen pregnancies.
So he's a daddy.
So he's a daddy, and he has, again, a really bad relationship with his dad. So Murad, his dad, arranged a political wedding for Mehmed with an alliance with this other tribe without even talking to him first. So Mehmed is forced to marry this poor young girl that he never had a child with, he never really lived with. He left her behind as soon as he could when he moved down to a capital, and she ended up dying alone in 1467. So
that's
poor girl.
17 years later.
Yeah, and if you think about it, so she's married, so she doesn't have to deal with suitors. She doesn't have any kids. She's probably got a really good station in life.
Mm-hmm. And considering where you could find yourself as a woman in that time period of history, she probably really lucked out.
Yeah.
And died of disease.
Right. You don't know. She could have been 40. She could have been like this old woman daughter that the tribal leader was like trying to get rid of or something. You never know.
Oh man, if Daddy really had,
I'm pretty sure that there is
against
evidence, and you can probably find that out. Again, second tier scholarship. We're not there yet.
All right.
Okay, so 1451, he has his second son, who ends up being his favorite son, with yet another concubine, because he's married. So everyone else now is concubines.
But his first one was a concubine as well.
Yes, he never married her.
Bayezid the second was with a concubine, never married her.
Never married her, and then never had child with his actual wife at this point.
So he then goes on to have another. So yeah.
Oh, he probably has tons of concubines. These are just the only ones getting pregnant.
These are also the only ones being written about,
right,
in history. You never know.
He's 16.
Really, and unlimited supply of concubines.
Right. So this son, his name is Mustafa.
Nice.
That's a great name, Mustafa.
Right.
Okay, so shortly after Mustafa was born, Murad, the dad, has another son as well, with yet another concubine. Because don't forget, Murad's still around kicking and having all these super young, hot concubines come in so he can have babies. So now there's another claimant to the throne. So we have Mehmed and now said Bebe.
Awesome. So Murad is still floating around
in retirement.
And making more babies. Well, I mean,
with concubines.
Why would you not?
I mean, you're in retirement, you're eating, you're concubining, like, he's living his best life. What else do you do? And then, dun, 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 his dad dies. Right before his 19th birthday.
Oh.
Mehmed, once again, is crowned sultan.
I bet you Dad's going to come back from the grave just to take it again.
You're still not doing
I
a
bet
good job, buddy.
Yeah.
What are you doing here?
Yeah.
Okay, so at this point, he's 19. He has 2 kids. He's married to some chick he doesn't like. He's got 2 different baby mamas that are not his wife. And now he's the sultan. So, what do you do? What do you do? You go find that bebe that your dad just had, and you kill him because he is a claimant to the throne.
He's a threat.
He is a threat, exactly. And then he strangles the baby in the bath. Well, he had it done. I'm sure he didn't do it himself. Or maybe he did. Who knows? Someone strangled the baby in the bath, and then he took the baby's mom and married her off and sent her off so that no future children, they would be the husbands, not like dead Murads. No more competition.
No more competition.
Mm-hmm. That's one way.
Is there really no more competition?
Nope, Murad's finally gone. He does not come back. There are no more brothers. Older brothers gone. Second brother's never heard of. He killed Bebe brother. It's just him. He is the sultan.
Sole heir.
He is on top.
He is.
Cool.
So he's just living his best life for 2 years.
So, I mean, for 2 years, carry on.
Mm-hmm. Living his best life. And then all of a sudden, he's approached by this dude, Constantine the 10th. Constantine the 10th is the Byzantine emperor that lives in Constantinople. He comes to Mehmed and says, so look, bro, I'm holding this dude Orhan, who happens to be this cousin that you never knew about. I'm holding him in my palace and have been for a long time. So your dad, Mehmed, has been paying me on the down low to hold Orhan so that Orhan can't contest the throne.
Contest Mehmed's position.
Right. So he's Orhan. It's crazy fun here, folks. Let's keep it. We'll do this together. Okay. All right. All right.
Okay.
Bayezid is grandpa. He has Murad and some other guy, and some other guy has Orhan. So Murad has been paying Constantine ransom to keep Orhan away from the throne so he can have the throne uncontested.
So maybe other brother was older brother?
So this is the uncle?
It is Mehmed's cousin. The Orhan is the cousin, because uncle is, I don't know who uncle is, and it's his son. Because he is the grandson of Bayezid. Mehmed is the grandson, and Orhan is the grandson.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get it now.
It really threw my head for a loop. I spent a lot of time on this. Yeah. I don't do family relations very well.
And Mehmed didn't even know that Orhan existed.
Mm-hmm.
This whole time.
Yeah.
No idea that Daddy was footing this bill.
Right. To keep a possible claimant to the throne away. Why didn't you just kill him? Why didn't you just kill everyone else? Why didn't you just kill him?
Just send him back.
Right?
And then get rid of the problem.
So exactly. Constantine comes to him, and this is like 2 years after Dad has passed away.
Yes.
Probably because he's not getting paid for this guy anymore.
And not that he's not getting paid, but just like the Janissaries, he's not getting paid enough. And he also wants a raise.
Inflation. Dude, it always gets you.
Cost of living, it changes. It's true. It's
all right.
And he has a history of...
Caving
in.
Oh, yeah. Mehmed is not seen as a strong, competent dude.
Yeah, he's still young. He's about 21-ish right now. And so now he's actually pissed. So he's gone through this before. He really hated that outcome. He's super young. He's super motivated. He's desperate to prove himself. He's desperate to show that the Ottomans cannot be bullied. He wants to let everyone know that the Ottomans and him are a force to be reckoned with. Spoiler alert, he becomes Mehmed the Conqueror. So he really takes this, his, what is that, a dream board? A goal board?
His vision board.
His vision board, yes. Yeah, he did good. He followed his visions to be Mehmed the Conqueror.
Big difference from 12.
Big difference from 12.
Big difference.
Failure
I guess,
12.
Yeah. He's learned a lot of lessons.
In the middle of
years
puberty.
Of being slapped down of, you're not good enough for this. He's upset. He's pissed. He is mad.
Yep. He's got this unknown threat to the throne that now he's got to deal with, and now he's being blackmailed by this dude that quite frankly is part of this empire that has been pissing off the Ottomans for a really, really long time. So he says, that's it, we are taking Constantinople. And let's talk about the city. So this city has been standing for 1,000 years. Okay, it is now 1453 when Mehmed goes and decides he's going to take it down. So it's been standing for 1,000 years. It sits on a peninsula which has water on 3 sides of it. And then it's encircled with these walls all around it. So these really tall, thick walls are protecting it. So it's protected by walls and water, and it's really, really old. Okay. So it has survived more than 34 attacks in its 1,000 years, including 12 by the Ottomans. Mehmed would make lucky number 13.
I love that. 13 is a good number.
It is. So both Mehmed's dad, Murad, and his grandfather, Bayezid I, tried to take Constantinople, and both failed horrifically. So his dad took control of the lands around the city and started a siege. And he built all kinds of really cool siege towers that were as tall as the walls. And he had these cool battering rams that they called tortoises because they were covered with a hard shell. And then they had these really cool armored fighting vehicles, kind of like Humvees or whatever, but like carriages.
So his goal was to break wall down and or scale the wall.
Scale wall, yeah.
Scale wall mostly?
Scale wall mostly, because the battering rams did so much, but there were 3 huge walls. They're like feet thick.
I could imagine. They were, the walls are insane.
Yeah. So they are doing this for 3 months, having this siege. More than 1,000 Turks are wounded and died, but only like 100 of the Byzantines were wounded, and no more than 30 died. So basically, the Byzantines won, and Murad had to withdraw. So Mehmed knew about this. Everyone knew about this. It was a really sore point for the Ottoman Empire, and especially for his dad.
It was like his one weakness.
Flop.
It was his one big flop. But I mean, Constantinople?
That is the prize. It is the jewel.
Absolutely.
Everyone has tried to get the city and no one has succeeded.
So, like, how big is it? I mean, I know that only 30 people on their team perished during this siege. Like, how big is the city? Like, how many people reside in Constantinople?
Well, in 1453, the population was estimated like 40 to 50,000. So to give you an idea, at the same time, in 1453, Paris was approximately 200,000. Venice was approximately 180,000. So 40 to 50,000 is pretty small and pretty manageable for the Ottomans. So Mehmed decided to make a two-pronged attack. He was going to attack on two sides, one through the walls on the west side, or the land side, and the other side was the eastern side, or the sea side. So on the left you have all of the land, and on the right you have the sea. So the first thing he needs to do, since there's so much water, is he needs ships, because that's what are on water. So he starts to build a fleet as soon as he decides that he's going to endeavor this great thing. And he quickly gains control of the coast of the Sea of Marmara, which are all of the seas that are around the peninsula, the waters around Constantinople.
Of Constantinople.
Yes.
So he's got all of the waters except for that river on that northern part.
So that is where the harbor is. Okay. And the harbor is what they call the Golden Horn, because it's kind of shaped like a horn. And then what they decided to do as defenders of Constantinople, it was just like what Tyrion did in Game of Thrones, and they drop a huge chain across the mouth of the harbor to prevent any ships from coming in.
Oh, well, clever. That makes sense.
Mehmed's ships can be on this far seaside, but they can't touch the actual city. It's protected by a wall and then the harbor is closed off by this chain, so they can't get into the harbor on the seaside. Yeah, that's what Mehmed needs to cross. And so we go back to him being a young boy, and he loved to study Greek history. Okay, so here's a weird side shoot about Greeks. So there's this thing called the Isthmus of Corinth, and this is a land bridge between two really popular rivers that were important for trade. So to get to the two rivers, they had to cross this strip of land. It was a pain in the butt. So they made this road to take one ship across to the other river. So it was like a road for ships across the land made of huge rollers. Okay?
So Constantinople is going to fall because he knew his history.
That's right, folks. Learn your history. So when you one day intend to take down a great city, you will know how.
Right? Know your history, guys.
Okay. So, well, the Greeks did this around 7 BCE. He knew this. He was going to put this into action. And so that's how he planned that side. Now the land side with these walls, these huge, thick walls. So fortunately for him, something called black powder was invented in China around 900 and moved into Europe around 1200. And now, by 1453, we have something called cannons.
Ooh, I like cannons.
Yes. So Mehmed commissioned the building, or procuring, because he bought or stole cannons that were anywhere in his empire that he could find. If he knew of a cannon, he took it. He would offer you money, but if you said no, he'd take it. Cannon collecting. So he managed to collect over 60 cannons. But he found this Hungarian dude. Again, Hungarians, Bathory. They're really involved in this period of time. But this dude's name is Urban. And he said that he could build the world's biggest cannon, and it would guarantee the great walls of Constantinople would fall and would ensure an Ottoman victory. Okay, fun fact, Urban, this dude, also approached Constantine earlier, like a year earlier, whatever, and said, yo, dude, I could build you the world's biggest cannon, and you could put it up on these big, huge walls, and you could protect yourself from anyone. No one would be able to take you. And Constantine is like, yo, bro, these walls are 1,000 years old. I'm cool. I don't need you. Hit the bricks.
Well, that's
way
one
to
way.
go.
Yeah. Go towards his enemy.
So now Urban is working for Mehmed, and Mehmed's rich and goes, heck yeah, dude, you build me the biggest thing you can build me.
Hell yeah.
So Urban created this cannon. It's so big. It's like 20 feet long, and this barrel, it's like 8 inches of solid bronze. And it is 30 inches in diameter. It is literally big enough for a dude to enter on his hands and knees. And it could only accommodate like this huge stone shot that could shoot, that would weigh something over like half a ton. Okay, just so that the listeners know, fun fact, half a ton is the size of a cow.
An adult cow?
A cow the size of half of a ton.
A female cow? A male? A heifer? What's the other one?
So you can...
No clue. Not a cow historian, unfortunately.
So this is a 27-foot cannon that will essentially launch a cow?
A cow.
Is that a Monty Python reference?
No, I didn't mean that. I was just trying to find something that was half a ton. And when you Google things that are half a ton,
a cow shows up.
A cow shows up, and I'm sorry, it might have been more specific. I didn't. Right?
We didn't mean it, but it is now a Monty Python reference.
Yay! Okay, so these cow-sized rocks took 3 hours to reload, and of course, there's not a lot of cow-sized rocks just laying around.
I bet you they did have cows, though.
But I think those at that point would be like more important to feed the army.
True. Yeah, I know. Yeah. We wouldn't be throwing our dinner over the walls. That sounds like a mistake.
They're there. This cannon could shoot them out.
Yeah.
if need be. So they're not easy to transport. There's not a lot laying around. So this cannon wasn't, this huge investment of the world's biggest cannon wasn't really able to be fired as easily. But it was so big that engineers were hired to go ahead of the rest of the army to literally improve roads and build bridges to account for the weight and sheer size of this cannon.
It's beautiful. That's one way to get road work done, right?
It is.
Yeah.
By your enemies, no less. Convenient.
I know, the Ottomans just come in and fix the interior structure of your roads. Right? You're like, hey, thanks.
We're going to war. It needs to be better.
They come to invade you and they're like, damn, these roads are crap.
Not only is he going to take your city, but he's going to call out your infrastructure.
Heck yeah. Okay, so we actually have a description of what it was like when this cannon was shot. A description by someone that actually heard it. I mean, not Tanya. Of course, she was not there to hear it at that time, but she is going to read it.
There was a fearful roar first, a shaking of the earth beneath, and for a long way off, a noise such as never was heard before. Then, with an astonishing thunder, a frightful crashing flame lit up all the surroundings, and then left them black. The stone was forced out from within by a dry, hot blast of air, borne with tremendous force and velocity. It hit the wall, which immediately shook and knocked down, and was itself broken into many fragments and scattered, hurling the pieces everywhere and killing those who happened to be nearby. There was no part of the wall strong enough or thick enough to be able to withstand the stone cannonball.
Very nice.
So this is an account from someone who was actually there watching this wall that had lived there for 1,000 years crumble.
Get boomed.
Boomed for the very first time.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even imagine how terrifying that must have been from inside of the walls.
Well, I mean, think this is the largest cannon ever built, so no one has ever heard a sound like this before. maybe people that have heard volcanoes erupt have heard a sound close to this, maybe.
But certainly not the people that have lived there in the surrounding areas within the walls. How absolutely terrifying that must have been.
All right, so April 5th, 1453, Sultan Mehmed II moves his forces to within a quarter mile of the wall. He has with him approximately 165,000 men and over 60 cannons. Remember, Constantine has a defending force of about 2,000 men and has 4 miles of walls to protect. All right? So Constantine sees this. He sees all of these things happening, and he closes off the city gates, and he sends out emissaries. And he says, yo, can we come to terms? Okay, maybe I don't need a raise. Maybe you don't pay me more money for this guy.
Okay, so he's like, I'm willing to back down.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Let's taco, at least.
I mean, you crumpled my 1,000-year wall.
Well, I mean, he's moved within the range of the wall at this point.
Okay, so this is prior to them smacking this wall down. He's like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah, he sees 165,000 men show up at your front door.
In a giant cannon.
With all these cannons.
Exactly, the most ginormous cannon.
And they're just like setting up tents, and they're just like settling it.
Yeah, we're gonna be here a while.
This is ours now.
Right, and then all of his allies that are on the other side of this landmass, because Constantinople is like this little peninsula, and then the landmass all to the west of them.
Yeah,
I can't remember. All to the west of them is
conquered,
allied. But now...
No, it's conquered. Ottoman, he has come through and is land grabbing all of this, making his way to Constantinople. All of this is Ottoman tournament. Yeah, he's fixing the roads along the way. He's putting in pashas and setting up governments.
He's putting in the work.
Yeah, he's doing it. He's putting the work in. This is mine now.
Obviously.
Yeah.
He is now known the Conqueror.
Yeah, not yet.
I thought he was. Okay.
No, but this hasn't even started yet.
Okay, never mind.
All right, so emissaries go out and say, maybe we should talk. And so Mehmed looks at them and says, he has them beheaded. And then he sends back the heads as a declaration of war and says, no taco.
Not going to happen.
Our head will do that to you.
Yeah. All right, Constantine's like, oh, crap. He might be serious. I might need some help. So he begins to reach out to different people like Italy and the papacy. Rome used to be attached to the Byzantine Empire. Big, long story. Reminds them, hey, we're Christian. We're in Eastern Europe. You need to help us. We used to be like allies. Crickets. No response. He starts making all these offers for land. If you come and you help, you can have any of this land that you want. Nothing. No one responds. He's like, oh, crap. Okay. So then he starts hitting up the Italian banks, like close to like the mafia. Not really, they're the banks. But it feels like it,
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's like, please, loans. Let me loan some money so I can buy mercenaries.
Right.
Right?
I need more defenses.
And the Italians are like, no. No one really wants to risk the wrath of what is, at this point in history, the seemingly undefeatable Ottomans. Anywhere the Ottomans step, they're just killing it. They're crushing it. They're building roads, making it their own.
Their army's the size of their towns.
It's bigger. It's 3 times the size of their town. Yeah, they only have about 40 to 50,000 people, and
I meant like all the other towns. Like Italy is like it's like 200,000.
Yeah, the Ottomans are killing it.
I mean, at this point, they could potentially like occupy Paris. For what you were saying, that's 200,000.
Yeah.
That's a group, man. Yeah, I would be a little nervous. I'd be reaching out to anybody.
So no one answers the call. So Constantine and Constantinople are left to face the Ottomans on their own. So beginning April 11th, Mehmed begins to relentlessly bombard the city day and night, basically trying to reduce these walls to rubble. So that's the cannons and the walls. But if you remember, we still have that pesky chain across the harbor, right?
Yeah.
Right.
We want to attack this from 2 sides, and I need my ships in the harbor. So we go back to the ancient Greeks and the Isthmus of Corinth, where they take the ships overland. He manages to move 72 ships across land into the harbor by April 22nd.
I'm sorry, was his group like just huffing these up on their backs and just carrying a ship over land? Like, he got this from the Greeks. Like, what did they do?
All right, so you
Cows.
take cows.
It was the cows.
No, because the cows are getting thrown to the cannons,
Right?
Rollers, logs of rollers, and you grease them up and you place a whole bunch, and then you put it on top, and it's like a conveyor belt. So they have oxens pulling the ships along the rollers, and as it moves along, as soon as the ship falls from the last roller, you take the last roller and you move it up to the front of it, and then you keep moving, and you take the last and you move it up to the front, and you last as they roll across.
So we saw this in the 100, didn't we? That game show, the Korean game show on Netflix, the 100, and you could actually see people doing this.
Physical 100, yes.
Physical 100, there it is.
Yep.
Such a good show.
They had to do this. They had to move, and I think it was a ship.
It was a ship.
That
It was
had
a ship.
to move.
Yeah,
That's this right here.
I love
you
that.
go, folks. That was one of my favorite shows. So he ends up moving 72 ships in this fashion along the road and into the Golden Horn on the other side of the chain. Witnesses said it looked like the ships were sailing across the countryside.
God, I can't even imagine how cool that must have looked. Just to see that, to witness that.
The labor intensive feat. So these feats that this one man is doing with his cannons, and he's moving ships, and he's taken this city that no one has managed to take. Like, this is huge. So he's inside the harbor, and he starts to build a pontoon and builds more cannons to shoot onto the interior walls of the harbor, which are weaker. They're not as well reinforced because it's the inside of a protected harbor. So he's shooting cannons at the interior harbor wall as well as all of along the other wall. So now Constantinople is just like boom, boom, boom.
Oh, man, with 77 ships, you said?
Like
70 some odd ships?
72.
That is insane.
Yeah, it's nuts. He does what everyone else does, and he builds siege towers. The defenders are blowing these up, and they're setting them on fire. The Ottomans build 2,000 scaling ladders and set off about 124 mines trying to blow up the wall and climb the walls.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so all of this insanity is happening on the outside of the wall. What's going on inside the wall with Constantinople? But I guess more importantly, like, what's happening to these people? Because this is not only a home to the 2,000 people defending the wall, but also to the citizens of Constantinople.
Yeah, there was a population of about 40 to 50,000 people that are just
Exactly.
normal women, children, hatters, butchers, whatever people do. They... Every single night, they would go out to the city and they would, like, take chunks of the broken wall and try to fix holes in the wall. So they would use anything they could to try to fix holes in the wall, even chunks of the wall that had broken off. Pieces of their furniture. They would carry out timber, stone, materials from their homes. They would try to soften the blows, so they would, like, drape things across the walls, like, to make, like, a protective layer, like bales of wool, leather sheets, even their tapestries from their houses.
Oh, man.
They would make this mortar, which was mixed with brick dust and chalk, and then it would harden into this protective layer. So they were doing anything they could to try to maintain the structural integrity of the walls, because they knew if the walls fell, they were fucked.
Yeah. That is literally their only defense.
Yeah. I mean, they have their own cannons, and they have their soldiers, and there's little skirmishes, and they're, like, setting their scaling ladders on fire and stopping the battering rams, but it's like a constant onslaught of infantry and cannons and things. Things are flying across and through the air. So these huge balls from the cannons that miss the walls actually travel up to a mile into the city, and they destroy anything in their path, like houses, churches, people. You know, they're just balls of stone flung through the air,
flinging through your city streets, essentially.
Yep, taking out whatever it takes out. They said that you could feel the ground shaking for 2 miles, and you could even feel it in the hulls of the ships in the harbor.
Oh my gosh.
So imagine being in it. The boom, boom, all the time. It's crazy. As far as like the soldiers and stuff, what was going on, these guys were getting really petty. They would start doing mass executions in front of each other, trying to like warn each other or retaliate. Mehmed had a whole bunch of soldiers beheaded that like after their ship sank, they swam ashore. So he caught them and had them beheaded. And then Constantine caught like a whole bunch of Turkish soldiers, and he had like 260 of them beheaded. So I think it was like a contest who could,
like a tit for tat, eye for an eye,
who could behead the most prisoners
that day.
Yeah,
with the great showing of executions. It's 2,000 men that were trained to defend, and then 40 some odd thousand citizens against
Civilians.
165,000 trained,
fully funded and resourced.
So that's not really much of a fight, especially since Mehmed had this cow throwing.
It actually became kind of more than it was worth. So you can load it so many times a day. It was so heavy.
You know, but he was able to break into.
You know, you would think that it would make such a big deal, but it really didn't. After a while, like, it was not able to take the heat and the pressure from all of these big explosions coming out of it, and it started getting all of these fractures all along the sides of its barrel.
So this is the ginormous cow shooting cannon, not all of the other smaller ones.
Correct, just the big guy.
So the big guy
the cow thrower should have a name. I guess it's cow thrower.
It's cow thrower.
Okay.
So cow thrower is
getting hot.
Is getting hot.
She's getting cracks.
There's fractures.
She can't take the heat.
She can't take the heat.
Cow thrower cannot take the heat. All right.
So one day, cow thrower, she explodes into several pieces and wounds all kinds of people around her, killing Urban, the dude that made her.
No, not.
I know, it's like Frankenstein killed by your own creation.
Treacherous.
So they try to repair it, you know, like wire it up, and you know, they try to repair it, but they don't know what they're doing because Urban's killed and he can't help him. So eventually it cracks again and it breaks and it's done.
And this is along the north wall that they were breaking.
Yeah, along one of the
by the chain.
Nope, not in that side. It was on the land side, not the seaside.
Okay.
The big guy was on the land side.
Right.
Yep. All right. So at this point, Constantine is not getting any help. He realizes this. He's like, these walls are clearly not going to stand. He is starting to freak out. But at the same time, in Mehmed's courts, his advisors and his generals are starting to lose confidence. So Mehmed's young. He hasn't really been battle trained. What's going on right now is a lot of the outlying provinces are realizing that this young, inexperienced sultan can't control them as much as his dad did. So they're starting to rebel and they're starting to try to throw off the Ottoman yoke. And he's distracted in Constantinople. A bunch of these northern provinces around Hungary and Turkey and the Baltic region are trying to break free. So the Sultan is kind of getting pressure from them because all of these resources and money and stuff is being wasted over basically an insult. Constantine came, talked about the cousin, and started all of this.
So it sounds like Mehmed's advisors and generals are still feeling very much the same way as Mehmed is a weak leader. He's not competent.
Yep, not
that
ready.
reputation is just following him onto the battlefield.
Yep.
Are there any other reasons that they're like, are there legitimate reasons that they're giving other than this past history?
Well, I mean, he's spending an awful lot of money and resources on trying to take Constantinople. He is losing money and property from all of these rioting and rebelling provinces. And, you know, a huge point that they keep making is we can always just come back.
Can we?
We can. Maybe we withdraw right now and we go and we subjugate the people that we need to, and then we come back. And he thinks about it and he almost decides to, but at the last minute he decides to push on. At this point, he does not know that Constantine is not getting any outside help.
Okay. So they're all thinking that it's just a matter of time before big guns show up from our rear.
Him.
Like Italy and maybe Hungary, maybe some of these rebelling countries might be aiding, sending ships down and around. So they're waiting for Constantinople to get resupplied, but it's not going to, and they don't know that. Mm-hmm. And the Pashas almost make Mehmed quit, and Constantine doesn't know that. So it's funny how they almost quit.
They're both on the fence of it all.
Yeah. Okay, so remember, his dad waged siege for 3 months, and he had to turn back really horribly defeated. After just 7 weeks, in the early hours of May 29th, 1453, Mehmed led his troops one last time through the breach in the wall. By dawn, the walls had fallen and the city was taken. Woo! The actions of the Ottomans after the fall of the city literally shook the world. They were astounded by how such tragedies could befall what was once the greatest empire in the world.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. This is 1,000 years of history.
Yes.
Everybody knows this town. I mean,
Constantinople.
Theoretically, correct. It's that big of a city.
Yep. It's been around with the Greeks and the Romans, and it was a Christian city, fell against the Muslim Ottomans. So in Ottoman tradition, it is customary for the victorious soldiers to have 3 days to pillage a conquered city.
Just 3 days.
I think that's a long 3 days.
I mean, that's 3 crazy nights.
So they estimated that in that first 3 days, 4,000 people, they were just killed outright. Those 2,000 defenders, most of those died over the past 7 weeks and stuff. Whatever was left, as soon as the breach happened, they were immediately slaughtered. So about 50,000 civilians are led into slavery. These are all women and children. All the male prisoners, the aristocrats, the administrators, they were just executed out of hand. So we do have another excerpt here from a person that had witnessed and survived and had been around at this time, read by the lovely Cecilia.
Anyone they found, they put to the scimitar. Women and men, old and young, of any condition. This butchery lasted from sunrise, when the Turks entered the city, until midday, and every one whom they found was put to the scimitar in their rage. Those of our merchants who escaped hid themselves in underground places, and when the first manslaughter was over, they were found by the Turks and were taken and sold as slaves. They sought out monasteries, and all the nuns were led to the fleet and ravished and abused by the Turks, and then sold at auction for slaves throughout Turkey. All the young women also were ravished and then sold for whatever they could fetch, although some of them preferred to cast themselves into the wells and drown rather than fall into the hands of the Turks, as did several married women.
That was great.
That was good.
I don't know. That was some really dark content, man.
It is. It is.
It really is.
After the fall of Constantinople, Mehmed turned this infamous city into the new Ottoman capital, Istanbul, and it opened the door for Ottoman expansion into Western Europe.
So that is the story of the fall of Constantinople.
That is right.
It was some young buck who had the world just tell them that they couldn't
do it.
That they couldn't do it. Constantinople was the last one. I mean, probably not the last one, but told him that he couldn't do it.
It was the big one.
It was the big one.
His dad lost, his grandpa lost, but he did it.
But he was holding potentially the key to unseat him
because of the
from
cousin.
his throne, because his cousin.
Yeah.
He held the cousin,
Yeah.
which he threatened him with.
Never,
Blackmailed him for money. He's
never
like,
threaten someone that's trying to prove themselves.
especially
Ooh,
not a
yeah.
teen.
Don't push him in a corner, man.
With two young kids.
With huge resources, an
Yeah.
army.
Yeah.
Massive resources.
Yeah.
And he had Urban in his back pocket.
Yeah, he sure did.
I would say Urban was the real go-getter here.
I think it's funny that Constantine turned Urban down.
Yeah. Because
Earlier.
if he had not turned him down,
If
I
he
don't
had
think...
the big cannon,
Yeah.
he could have kept the Turks out.
Yeah. In fact, he could have gone into... You never know.
Probably
Urban
couldn't
was the
afford
real
it.
big guy here. You know?
He went down doing what he loved, blowing shit up.
Yeah.
Him himself was blown up.
He went out in a blaze of glory. Love it.
So that is the official tale of the fall of Constantinople, but there is so many other interesting side notes about it, and there were like lots of superstitions involved around Constantinople and the Ottoman Empire about it. So Mehmed at his court, lots of these men saw that they saw divine signs that prophesied an Ottoman victory. One of these signs that prophesied a victory was a lunar eclipse. So this happened on May 22nd, and it was able to be seen for 3 hours. So the Ottomans were like, this is a sign that we are going to win. Ironically, at the same time, it was also a sign to the Byzantines that hearkened that Constantinople would fall. So I guess it was the exact same sign. Yeah. They both felt the same thing.
Yeah. They both knew what was going to happen.
They did. So there's another prophecy that claimed that one Constantine would found the empire and then another Constantine would lose it. It was Constantine the Great that founded the city of Constantinople, and it was Constantine X that watched it fall into the hands of the Ottomans. You never know. These prophecies, they're sometimes written years after the fact. So,
yeah, exactly. On another superstitious side note, taken from medium.com, Mehmed was born March 30th of 14 something. I can't remember. It's not in our notes, but
sure is.
We Googled it. I Googled it and I found it.
Oh my God, it isn't.
So Mehmed happens to be an Aries, and I found this short little expert from medium.com. It just fit the bill for this man and this little tale that we have told. This is all after the fact. So being an Aries, his typical likes would be shopping for cow cannons, competition, strange enough.
Who can behead more prisoners?
Brothers.
Who can kill more brothers?
You know, adventurous trips and games.
Down to the Mediterranean.
Right? Adventurous trips. Yeah. So he is ruled by and Aries is ruled by the planet Mars, which we all know Mars is very associated with war. Some other things that come up with that is their main need is action.
Yep.
That the things need to happen, right? Taking action. His mantra would be, I am, I exist. Perhaps words he wants to say to Daddy.
Vini Vidi Vici.
Right.
I came, I saw, I conquered.
His life goal would be becoming a leader.
Aww.
Obviously. So some of his dislikes. Losing.
Quite
to
true.
Share their favorite things.
Yep.
And hearing no.
Oh my goodness, was this written for him?
I feel like this was written for Mehmed. You know, the fates brought this to our lap for Mehmed. He gives Aries vibes off.
Mm-hmm.
He does.
He definitely does. Are there any other superstitions or myths around?
Let's see, kind of two weird little ones. Okay. So, according to one legend, once it became apparent that the city was going to be taken, an angel appeared to Constantine and turned him into a marble statue, which they placed by the gate. And then he would be returned to his human form when the Turks were expelled from the city.
That never happened.
I know, right?
He's still there to this day.
He's still there. And then another one had to deal with the priests that were taking refuge in the Hagia Sophia, which is the huge church that is there when the city was taken. It is said that when the soldiers broke into the cathedral, the priests melted into the core of the building and would return when the city was free from foreign influence. Istanbul is still Muslim. It's still Turkey. So it looks like the emperor and the priests have a while yet to wait. Well, that's about all I have on the fall of Constantinople. So I hope you guys enjoyed talking about it.
I certainly did. I thought not only understanding just the story of the Constantinople, but also more information and an understanding of the man who did it with Mehmed.
Mehmed, the conqueror.
Yeah. And as someone who is not very good or knowledgeable on history, this was interesting to listen. I'm so used to like the song Constantinople, you know, just the one I'm thinking like Just Dance. I like to do the dance whenever I hear of it. So
I'm not going to torture the listeners by trying to sing that at all.
Oh golly, and I think copyright rights and all that fun stuff.
Yeah,
but we all know
we ain't got that.
About.
We're not that podcast yet.
Yeah, but thanks for having me.
It was a blast having you. Thanks for joining us today, and that's it. I hope you guys tune in next time.
Hey everyone, we just wanted to take a minute and thank you for listening to us here at History's Uncharted. We know you have lots of options out there, and we are super grateful you chose to share this hour with us. As a brand new podcast, it takes a lot to get started in the beginning, so if you could please rate us, follow us, leave a comment, or even share our podcast with someone you think would love to hear a cool story. You can do one or all three, but whatever you do, we would love to hear from you.